Hi everyone and welcome to our webinar called When, Why and How to Go Mobile. My name is Vratislav Kalenda and I am the CEO of Uplifting and I will be your host today. Together with me here is Jan Hauser, our UK CEO. Say hi, Honza, to everyone.
Hey, welcome.
And let's get started. So before we dive into the topic, let me just briefly introduce us, Uplifting as the company. Uplifting is a European software house. We are now more than 120 people, and we specialize in digital product creation. That means taking your idea from the idea stage, validating it, then building the MVP, and hopefully together, building it into a successful and scalable business. What is interesting about us is that we have no managers or salespeople. The closest to salespeople is me or Jan here. We are in the IT for more than 15 years. We are experienced solution architects. So we act as a partners for our clients in achieving their goals. And we are also a deal organizations. That means that we are structured differently. We are very flat and we value transparency towards our clients, towards ourselves, and we value trust and freedom. And together, the main speaker of this event is Honza. So Honza, why won't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everybody. Welcome to our webinar. Just very shortly about myself. I'm currently based in London. We started here like half of the year ago. And the company is more than 7 years old, but we are pretty fresh in the UK. And we focus on new opportunities in fintech. Like me personally, I started as a mobile developer, and in a couple of years, I felt the necessity of kind of focusing on product development, and I kind of dig deeper and deeper in this field. So currently, product development is kind of my passion, and I try to combine it with the mobile world together. And that's kind of the reason why I decided let's have this webinar today. So I'm happy you are here and we can go through the topic together. So before we start, we are gonna use Slido, and it seems we have some trouble because it's not working. So let me check what's wrong. Just a second.
But in the meantime, I will post you the link where you can join us at Slido to post your questions and the polls.
Yeah, so I made it work, and I made it work right now. So okay. It works. And you can use the link by Vrata or either go to slido.com and fill there L344, which is the code of this event. And the question for the first polling will be, where are you joining us from? And this is just the trial. We will have 2 more questions during the session. And we use Slido for Q&A session as well. So please do not hesitate to post there the first answer so we see where you are joining us from. I'm gonna put there London for myself. And we have one Prague, I see. Great. I'll give it like 2 more minutes so we can see that you are in Slido platform and that you will be able to join us on Q&A session, which will be in the end of this event, and it will be organized by Slido as well, the same event as this one. Yeah, I see someone join us from kitchen. Nice. There's some Prague, London. That's something we expected since we are like in the UK and Czech Republic as well. So I hope you were able to join us in Slido. Saying it once again, the event code is L344 and the web is slido.com. You can either use the link from Vrata in chat. So I see a couple of people already. Oh, we have someone from US as well. So you, I guess you are familiar with this tool, since it's pretty famous right now in the times of COVID. It helps to organize webinar. Okay, so thank you for your answers, and I'll start with the topic.
Yeah, we have more than half of people in Slido, so I think we can continue. Awesome,
great,
thanks.
Great, success. So what does it actually mean to go mobile? When I say like there is some kind of definition I put together myself, and it's basically about allowing the end user to access and use my digital product on mobile devices. And by us in Uplifting, there are like two possible basic ways how to go mobile. You can either start with the mobile first approach, let's say according to your product market fit. You know that most of the people who would use your platform will use it on mobile phones. So you'll decide, okay, this will be my case. This will be best for me to hop on mobile and start there from the very beginning. So that's the mobile first approach. And the second one is like scaling up to mobile platform. Let's say you have some very basic web platform and you want to allow it for mobile users. So you kind of optimize the web for mobile users. That would be the first step. And then you can kind of make next and other steps and other approaches. And I will show you what the options are. So how does it actually work for us in Uplifting? Usually we receive similar inquiry from our potential customers, and it's about like everyone wants to be everywhere. So you have web, Android, iOS, or either like Windows platform, whatever. You want to have as many paying customers as possible. You want to have shiny app, which is kind of smooth, sexy, or swift, with nice UX, nice UI. And usually everybody has somehow like limited budget or limited human resources or limited time of the product owner or people like involved in the product. And there is one funny thing that everyone wants to have it as soon as possible. I made a joke here, like needed yesterday. It's not, people do not formulate it this way. And why I put it here, I do not want to offend anyone at all. It's basically the reason why I decided let's have this webinar to kind of put some light for you into the process so you understand what is behind the wall for a company who basically like delivers these features or these apps. So short statement from myself would be you should be aware of that nothing was built in a day and nothing in the process can be skipped to have successful product. So there is some iteration phase, some validation phase, some designing, some asking for feedback of your potential customers, some development phase, and then some maintenance and operation. It is always better to do, let's say, small steps to kind of de-risk the process about creating of digital products. And last but not least, of course, it has its costs. So what are actually the options we are going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about 4 various options for mobile platform. And these are basically the approaches we would recommend here, like in Uplifting. The list is not exhaustive. And each one of the options or approaches has its pros and consequences, and require different technology, require different expertise, and sometimes also different capacity, or like the team capacity. The The first one I'm going to talk about is SPA. I put there SPA/PWA. SPA stands for single page application. It's kind of famous approach these days. And the second shortcut is for progressive web application. And it basically means something you can open in the web browser. And if you take it to the next level of PWA, you can basically install it, have launcher on your mobile desktop, you can receive notifications, you can have very limited access to some device features like camera, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and so on. And you should be aware of the fact that it has very big limitations for iOS platform. It is not a condition for PWA to have like single page application before. It can be applied to any of the web applications. It needs to have some like architecture design before, and you just put there some service workers, some icon and manifest file, and you can get a better mobile experience. So this is kind of the first step you should consider when kind of going to mobile. The second approach I'm going to mention is called native wrapper. And you maybe have heard about or either Ionic or Cordova. But this basically means that you have some web application and you encapsulate it with like into native code, and then the app behaves or like it pretends to be native mobile application. So with this approach, you can already have your presence in app stores, either App Store and Google Play. But the performance is worse than with either like hybrid or native approach, which will be like the next two I'm going to show up. The third possible option or approach I personally would recommend is going the hybrid way. When I speak about hybrid, I mean by that the Flutter technology. The reason is that we use this approach in Uplifting. And I'm not going to mention the other technologies like React Native because we are not really into that. I'm not saying that it's really like bad technology. It's widely used. You will meet many companies, many developers in React Native. I'm just saying that for us here in this webinar presentation, it will be more about Flutter. Flutter is a technology written in Dart, which is like coding language. And what is good about hybrid technology is that you have one code base for both the platforms. And there is also the option to kind of combine it with native code. So with some backbone of the app, you can have just one code base written in Dart, and you can write the specific parts in native code for both the platforms, iOS and Android. So you can kind of combine it together. Let's say if you have some like security sensitive features or something you need to get like really low level to some device functions. So you can kind of combine it together. And Flutter is a young technology, modern language. So this is a good approach to consider. The last one I'm going to mention is the most robust, most flexible, with the best performance, and it's the native approach. So you have basically two code bases, Swift and Kotlin, iOS and Android, and you basically, yeah, it's basically the most pricey one because you need either more time or more capacity to go this way. So kind of wrap it together. We have these four options we are going to consider for this webinar, and we will, like in the next steps, we will kind of be looking into how to decide which is the best for you. I would like to ask you another question via Slido right now. I'm pretty interested in which of the approaches, which of the options I mentioned are you familiar with? I put here two options for hybrid Flutter and hybrid React Native because I'm really interested in like how people differ between these two. I will give you some time. I will vote myself. This is something I'm really glad to see. Native is winning. We are pretty like native-oriented company, I have to say. We prefer it.
Yeah, you as a native developer, you can definitely appreciate it, right? And,
yeah.
and as you can see, you also can see that the hybrid, the Flutter way is not as known in the community. React Native was on this field for much longer, developed by Facebook, right? It has a staple name with all its good and its bad. It's the default for hybrid technology, I would say.
Right now, I think so, since like Flutter is pretty young and it was not adapted as much as React Native, I think so.
Yeah, but the adoption is sharply rising in the Flutter community, especially now. They developed a web-based approach, so you can take one code base and deploy it both on mobiles and on the web. It just came out of the public beta right now, so we will see how it goes, but it looks very promising for the future.
I think they are also involving desktop applications, so it's like one code base for everything. I'm pretty skeptic for this approach, but yeah, let's see. Okay, I think thank you for voting. I'm glad to see that you are pretty familiar with the options. And we can get to like how to decide which way to go. So how to choose the right option or the right approach. I'm not saying that some of the approaches is bad and some of the approaches is good. It really depends on what you need. And each of the product and each of the application is kind of unique. So I put together 5 key factors you should consider, by my opinion, but there might be many more you should take into account. So the first key factor I'm gonna talk about is the price, which is a factor for everybody. And especially for startups, which needs to be very cost effective. The second factor we are gonna talk about is security. With all the regulations in space like GDPR, open banking regulations, you have to reach like certain level of security. The third key factor for us is performance. When I'm talking about performance, it means like a UX UI optimization and the smoothness of the app, the feeling from using the app, how it can handle animations and many more. Next factor is like device functions. It's about like accessing camera, Bluetooth, NFC, security storage, and other kind of hardware stuff of the device. And the last to mention is like platform coverage. It was also one of the requirements in the email I was showing in the beginning of this presentation, that everyone wants to be everywhere. And we will take a look a bit deeper for like into these factors. But generally, you will always move from SPA to the native, and each step you do from SPA to native wrapper to hybrid, hybrid to native, you always get some kind of improvement. So you should feel this direction, and the price or the cost will also grow. As I already said, not saying that any of the approaches is wrong or bad. It's just a matter of the right time and the product stage and your requirements. So please, Rata, if you can, I'll pass you the word right now. And if you can say, like, talk a bit about the factors so people in the audience have better understanding.
Yeah, sure. So the first key factor is price. What are your budget? And you really need to look at the price in combination of what audience you are trying to reach. Because if you already have a web application or your people are mostly web-based right now, the cheapest thing that you can do with a big effect is to convert your website to progressive web app or to wrap it into native wrapper, and you can get big bang for your buck in terms of accessibility on the mobile. So that's the first thing. But if you are, if your target audience needs to be mobile, wants to use your use cases preferably on the mobile side, then the hybrid and native approach are really here to consider. From the more cheaper one is the hybrid, where you can have one code base at least for the both mobile platforms. But then also, if you need to cover a website, you need to build it. You need to have a special team for that. But if you want to go, all in the most, let's say, shiny, fancy app, or you need other features, as we look into other slides, the native approach can be the right one. But it will definitely be the most expensive ones, because that means that you either need to have super skilled developers that know both platforms, or you need to have two separate teams, or two sets of developers, one for Android and one for iOS, to make it happen. And you should always know how you are getting charged, whether it's fixed time, fixed price, or if it's a time and material, so pay as you go. And you also must be aware that when the software development company charges you a fixed time, fixed price, they are building in a huge buffer for themselves, because there's always a big uncertainty when you are building a software project. So it's very hard to give a real estimate, and the software development companies are usually hedging themselves in the fixed time projects with a big buffer. So if you are willing to accept, to share the risk with the software development company, you can go time and material and kind of help, and kind of like work towards the goals together, so that you build just exactly what you need for that given validation stage, or for meeting your funding goal. Another big consideration that you need to make is security, because you are very limited in a way what you can guarantee in terms of security for single page application and native wrapper, especially with access to the native functions like secure enclave, and especially if you are building like a banking application, fintech oriented stuff, you would much probably go to more of a native way, where you can tap into low level primitives such as hardware security module, or checking for root and jailbreaking. And a lot of those requirements are also mandated by PSD2 and other fintech regulations. So basically, the more secure and more trust in the device you need, the more native you need to go. That would be the rule of thumb here. And in terms of performance, it really depends on how, what is your preferred style of an application. If it's just some list views and seeing things in tables, you can get away with just a progressive web app or native wrapper. But the more you want the custom animations and 3D display and having very smooth 60 FPS plus experiences, the more you need to consider hybrid or native approaches. The native approaches is basically if you want to use the natural user interface and the elements that are present in Android and iOS, you will be needing to write the code twice, even in the hybrid approach. So there is then very little difference between hybrid and native in the code base of the user interfaces. So the more you want to be native on a platform, the more you are kind of trending towards the native approach on the technology scale. And another factor to consider is what hardware functionality you need to have access to. Is it like low-level Bluetooth? Is it like artificial intelligence, augmented reality processing with camera? Is it NFC? Is it other sensors like gyroscope, pressure, temperature? The more sensors that you need, the more hardware functionality that you need. You need to really check whether it's available on the technology that you've chosen, and how hard is it to get to it. And also the rule of thumb here is the more native you get, the easier it is to access those special hardware functionality. And it can be a really complicated space. So after a webinar, you can book me or Jan to have a quick free chat about what are you trying to build, and we can help you to kind of navigate this maze of what technology could be good for you in that case. And and another thing is the platform coverage. With hybrid and single page applications, you can cover all platforms, including web. When you go Flutter and or native, then you are losing web coverage. And if you go native, you need two code bases for Android and iOS. And if you want to have a web platform, that would be a separate team, separate code base for the web platform. So that's also a thing to consider, and not to forget, even if you have one code base, there's still some more extra work involved to get it to the app stores, to the Google Play Store and to the iOS App Store. So it's not like if you have one code base that you will save all of the work that is there to support all the platforms, but it can drastically lower the costs. But a hybrid application developed only for iOS will be always cheaper than a hybrid application developed for both platforms.
Yeah, I would just add one thing here, that if you are using PWA or progressive web app, the way like bigger players use it is they use it for the conversion from the web to mobile app. So they have something they call light version of their mobile application. So you can easily get to it via the web platform and like have it installed and so on and so on. And they kind of use it for like to support the conversion from web to like the real native mobile application. So it's like a middle step for them.
So basically, how to decide. You should never compromise on your core business value and where your users are. So if they are mostly mobile and they need to use your application on the go, you should cater to that. But if everything else is equal, you need to find the right mix between all the features and the price. So do you need the best security there is? You will probably be paying extra for that. Do you need the best performance? Yes, that will cost you as well. But if you can compromise on, like your application maybe isn't that animation heavy, or there's not much device functions that you need to access, you can go with a, let's say, more hybrid, more web-based approach than to have a fully native code, and you can save money on that.
Yep, definitely. Thanks, Raja. I'll take this next slide right now, because we are talking about like the factors to consider when choosing the approach, but there is one more like also important thing, and it's about the when to use the approaches. And I'm kind of designing here the 4 basic stages of digital products, which is kind of related to the number of customers, or more generally to the business growth. or growth of your business generally. And the first stage kind of is describing how you have the fresh new idea, how you need to validate it, how you need to kind of validate the business plan itself or the business model, and how you need to check if there would be an interaction for your platform. And as the business grows, you get to the stage where you have some early adopters, first users, you need to build first MVP, and you start to think, okay, this might work. This is maybe gonna work in the future. After you reach this level, you find out, okay, I need to convert my early adopters to paying customers. And if you are capable to do it, it might, like, your business might grow, and you should focus on the better product because people are paying for that. So you should give them the best service, right? And after you are stable in this next phase, you will get to something called scaling of your product. You are generating revenue. You can use it for new features and for improvement of your product. You should never forget that the loop is like never ending. So if you are scaling, you get new ideas, you need to validate them, you need to validate the monetization around it and everything. So it's kind of a loop you are inside, and it can be similar, like it's not a finite game because there is no winning in this field. You just iterate and keep yourself and your product alive, and it can grow, but you cannot win this game, basically.
You can only be best at it compared to your competitors, right?
Definitely. And so this is kind of next factor we consider, and we call it like when to use the approaches according to your product stages. And we are going to give you two examples. First one will be about scaling to mobile platform. So let's say starting from the web platform and going to mobile. I'm going to talk about some general investment platform. You don't really need to start purely on mobile from the beginning. So let's say the first stage, there is in place to use some basic web landing page, some basic SPA, single page application, something very simple to kind of validate your ideas and check if there is interest and potential customers. As the business grows, with the early adopters, you decide, okay, I'll take what I have and I will offer my users, my customers, some MVP, some functional SPA, which is also easily and comfortably accessible from mobile browser. So you could have like SPA with optimized UI for mobile devices as well. As you get the first customers paying for your services, you start to think how to improve their mobile experience, and you might go the PWA or native wrapper way to kind of make it more accessible for the users. And once you have enough money for scaling and new features, you might start thinking, okay, now might be the right time to go hybrid or native. But you have to keep in mind that if you decide to go hybrid or native, you will have to build everything like on the green field because you cannot reuse something from the previous steps. You will have like your single page application will be alive, it will be still there, but you cannot take the code and kind of convert it to the mobile application. So you will have to build it on a green field. But it might be opportunity for you to kind of ask again, what are the features, how people on mobile devices are going to use it, can I polish it in some way, and so on, so on. It hardly, like all the steps I mentioned here, it hardly depends on the use case you have. I'm talking about some general investment platform without specific sensitivity apart from the price as for the startup. But it might be purely unique. And like we understand that it's hard to decide. And as Vrati already said, we can kind of sit and chat about your use case and to kind of help you to decide. And next example will be, no, I have one more thing here. I almost forgot, but I prepared for you some like prices. It's not like I cannot give you some like real estimate for something very specific because this is some general example. I'm giving you some prices so you can get the notion how more or less it might cost according to the stages you get in. So I put there some numbers so you can see like you can compare which stage is like more pricey and which stage is cheaper. And what is interesting here is that you obviously pay the most in the second stage of early adopters when you build your MVP, and in the scaling phase where you kind of decide to build hybrid or native application from scratch. Okay, there is one more example by Vrati. So it will be the mobile first thing. You can go, Mike.
Yeah. So let's have another example, and it would be like Uber-like platform, something that is where all of your users are on the go. It's obvious that the use case right from the start need to be mobile. So you would go mobile first, and basically the way how you want to approach it is to look into the phases and start with the if you can click on the next slide. Basically the way how you want to do it is the first for the validation. You can just do a landing page where you collect emails and a prototype, clickable prototype, to just get to get to know what you are building, get some traction, some validation of your idea, and then for the MVP you can either decide to go hybrid or native. I put here a native approach. So basically, this is how much it would cost to build Uber-like platform on like in some minimal scope in native. But the reason why we don't do like single page application or progressive web app in the MVP stage is that you would probably be outcompeted by someone who offers a fully mobile native experience, because the majority of the use case is specific to the mobile. So it makes sense to offer it, and especially if you have some security consideration or performance consideration, or for example in Uber you need a precise location and location services, and you need to get as everything that there is in the hardware, then that's definitely a reason to go native or hybrid.
Okay, so this was the second example. We had to do like how to scale up to mobile and how to start the mobile first to kind of for you to give you a better notion about the difference between the approaches. And what I did also, I put together the key factors, the product phase, and the approaches and options we just presented to you. And I put it into some kind of table. We will share with you the presentation slides after the session, so you can kind of explore it in more depth. But we are a bit slow with Vrati, so we need enough time for a Q&A. So I'm not gonna stay here much longer. Just very quickly, price sensitive startup. Going the way with the first like landing page or simple SPA, and growing to SPA, PWA, and hybrid native phase. It's kind of similar to the investment platform I was talking about. And some security sensitive startup started with either like landing page, a simple hybrid application, and scaling up to native. It might be similar to something what Vrati was talking about. Or you can be like very huge company without the need of the scaling up, and you can kind of start with native from scratch. It's also a possibility.
Also, you can do what Clubhouse did. If you know the application Clubhouse, they just went all native, and that they went for iOS because that's what they needed for a business. They wanted to find a product market fit. They wanted to find a validation, and for that, they want the most polished experience only on one platform. And they knew that if it proves on the iOS, it will be very easy to build the native application on Android with all the funding that they will receive. So that's also.
Yeah, we were also discussing that they wanted to have a limited number of customers to kind of have enough time to test everything. That, yeah, like you never know. Okay, I just put together some main takeaways for you. So always keep in mind, there are more approaches for mobile. I presented you four of them. Always keep in mind, like the decision should be made according to the key factors and stage of your product. Do not be scared of starting on the green field. It can give you kind of opportunities to keep your product clean and clear. This is related to building the app after having a web application, for example. Keep in mind that every digital product is unique, so there is no cookbook which will tell you like what you should do. So it's always good to talk with someone from the field, someone with some expert to kind of clarify what the next steps and what your path should be. Okay, this is slide for your feedback. We are really interested. I will be here just shortly to have 15 minutes for your questions, but we will be happy if you can give us some feedback. How you liked it? One is poor webinar. 5 is I had really good experience. So please do not hesitate to go to Slido and we'll fill in this rating. And after that, we are gonna hop on Q&A session. I see some fours. Four is good. Thank you for the 5 stars rating. We are still like the beginners in webinar space, I think. We started like 4 months ago, and we try to have at least 1 session a month, so you can kind of look forward for the next one in a month. I'm not sure, right? Maybe, do we already have a topic we're gonna talk about, or something you have in mind?
I've just posted our contact information into the what is it, Zoom, so you can contact us on this contact information, either me or Orion. You can schedule a meet and greet with us, and we can talk about your idea, what you are trying to build. We can give you an advice how to approach it best, according to your funding goals and the way how you want to structure your business. And if we may maybe to go to the Q&A session, Jan, then maybe.
Let's do that.
Okay, cool. So thanks everyone for participating in this. We appreciate it a lot. And now it's time for your questions. So join us at Slido and let's talk. Let's answer your questions that you might have about going mobile.
Yeah, I'm gonna put there the first question. It will be on you, right, Taz? So I can show the others how it actually works in Slido. Just need to formulate it.
I've never used Slido, so I'm looking forward to it.
So you put there the question, it's shown here. I hope there is no typo from my side. So this will be my questions on you. Well, my question on you, right? What was the most interesting mobile project you worked on?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the most interesting projects that I worked on was helping securing the George mobile banking for Erste Group, because you know that there's a mobile banking that is used in 5 countries in Central Europe, and we were asked to come with a easy access solution for clients so that they don't have to type in their password every time. So, you know, something that they can use their fingerprints, or they can use a PIN code or something else to kind of exchange for the identity and to access their mobile banking. And the most interesting thing there was just the cryptography and the security, and, you know, to kind of design the protocol in such a way that it was secure. So for me, that was the most interesting thing, and to, you know, have it running on iOS and Android and scale it to millions of users. So that was fun.
Yeah, I remember myself to kind of having all the table with just the cryptographic keys and some kind of my diagram, how to put everything together. Yeah, that one was good.
Yeah. Well, there's another question. How long it usually takes to build app from scratch, like web and business stuff, like, you know, medium-sized Airbnb? I think it takes a lot of time to build an Airbnb, but, you know, if you are talking a startup, you know, startup speed, or like building it from a scratch, I would say you need some time for validation, at, let's say, 1 to 2 months, to just make sure that your idea is good. Then for the MVP, it could be anywhere from 2 to 6 months, and then to build it into, let's say, a project that starts to have return on investment, or project that, you know, that kind of finds this product market fit, that could be another 5 to 6 months usually.
Yeah, and you're saying 5 to 6, but you are talking about MVP, right? Probably.
Yeah. Well, the MVP, okay, to get to the MVP, that would be 5 to 6 months to get there. If we are talking Airbnb, like, you can, you know, of course, you can show something much earlier, let's say 3 to 4 months, but to get it to the polished stage where you can be like, yeah, this is what we are launching, I would be conservative and say half a year.
Okay. I hope you are happy with this answer. I have nothing to add from my side. We can hop on next question, I guess. There is the first one. What technical typing points forces a switch from React, Flutter to native? I can answer this one. Basically, it might happen that you, as I said, you can combine it together. So you can have one code base and you can add like native parts, but at some point you can see that you spend so much time on the native parts themselves, and you are not actually using the one code base benefit with the hybrid process. And if you find out that you are spending just too much time on this kind of getting everything together, that might be the right point when to kind of switch to native totally. Yeah, that might be from my side. You have something in mind, right?
Maybe especially with the React, the performance of React Native is not as great as native code, and it shows, especially in complex applications. So if you have like a animation heavy workload, or like data heavy workload, let's think infinite scrolling of like very complex cells, that could be a like issue that can be very hard to mitigate in React Native. Also, that, for example, Airbnb was one of the first adopters of React Native. They went to React Native components for most of their apps, and then after 2 to 3 years, they switched back to native. And their reasoning was that it took, like, the technology stack was too deep, because you had the native code here, and on top of that you had the React Native, and the engineers just had a big cognitive overload to kind of work on those two stacks of the React Native and the native code they needed. So especially if there were bugs on the divide between the native code and the React Native code, it it took much more time to debug it, and then basically they figured out that they are basically patching the original React Native code more than basically the library more than developing their product, their features, and that's why they decided to switch back to the native approach. That being said, I don't hear that as much of it about Flutter, this kind of exhaustion by the tech stack, but that might be just because it's a much younger technology. So yeah, that's my two cents.
I've read one performance analysis comparing React Native, Flutter, and native, and Flutter is like mostly comparable to native performance. It's really good. And yeah, from this perspective, React Native was a bit losing in that research.
I also maybe one addition. We had once a client that had an application in React Native. And basically the company promised him that yes, you can access Bluetooth, yes, you can access location from React Native, and basically yes, you can do all of those things, but you can do it poorly in a way that there are bugs in the libraries that are wrapping those core functionalities, and to debug it, you need to understand not only the library that you are using, but also the code underneath it. So like this thing of having just React Native developers without knowledge of the native code was a myth, because they still needed to hire native engineers to kind of debug and fix this application after all, because the bugs were in the bridge between the React Native and the native code.
Yeah, I think we have more questions, so let's hop on the next one. We are like short of time. So there is one, what type of mobile app projects do your team want to work on in the future?
Well, we are mostly focused in fintech space, and so that's our core thing. But I mean, our team isn't picky. We have over 15 to 16 mobile engineers right now, and lots of other engineers on the back end and so on. So I think our team most enjoys a strong vision behind the project, and realistic founders that know how this space works. I think that's the most important thing for our team. So as long as it has a strong vision, and the founders want to validate, and kind of have a quick feedback loop with the market, so that we don't build something, in a black box for 6 months, then we release it and find out that nobody actually wants to use it. That kind of, so the founder that validates and gathers feedback, often that's the type of thing we want to work on.
Yeah, I would challenge you a bit that our team is not picky, because sometimes they need to work on something what makes sense to them, and it's a crucial point which can kind of be the decision factor if yes or not, if they like it or if they don't. And we have 2 more, right? So I'll read the first one. Do you think native apps will always beat cloud-based apps? If not, when do you think the cloud-based apps will take over?
Yeah, well, I think it's not merely a competition. I think everything has its place and time in the world, and I think that the main problem is that there's just limited estate space on your home screen. People don't usually install every app they see, and if your interaction with the customer is a short-lived one, or it's a very transactional thing, like you do this once and then you don't have another transaction for half a year or a year, it really doesn't make sense to build an app for that, because people it would just lie there and people want to use it. So it's very, it's a very specific type of business that you need to have to really justify to build an app for that. So there are many use cases, especially in like consuming content, like reading a book, where there's not really a need, if you are not a medium or like some huge site, to have a special dedicated app for you. So it really depends. I don't think it's a competition. I think it's a kind of a complementary model where a lot of the use case can be served just by cloud-based apps. And then there are some special use case that where the mobile app is the way to go. And sometimes it's even like there with the progressive web apps, it works in a way that you do the single transaction things on the web in a website. And then when the time is right and the user gets more involved with your service, they can install your application, basically a native application, or add the progressive web app on the home screen. And that's how you kind of hook in the user. So.
Yeah, and I think you also answered the second question about if it could be like 2 or 3 years after wide adoption of 5G, like having this, that it's not neither competition. I think it's kind of clear.
Yeah, I think that basically what we will see will be the blending of the web experience with the native experience. Like the technologies go in a direction that it will be seamless to transition from a web experience to completely native experience. Android already does it with their progressive web app implementation, and how you can kind of install the app right from the web. And iOS is also going there. So I think it's just a matter of time when the user won't notice when they are still in the web and when they transition to a fully native application.
Yeah, I think we answered all the questions right now, and we have the last minute of our webinar. So thank you for all the questions. Thanks everybody for spending the time here with us. I enjoyed it a lot. And if you have any more questions, anything, you can just get in touch with us.
Yeah, thanks very much. Have a beautiful day, and we are looking forward to talking to you more if you choose to schedule a call with us.
Yeah, I think as I promised, we are gonna get back to you in a month with next webinar. We need to polish the topic. I hope you enjoyed the time here with us, and I'm looking forward to see you again.
Yeah, see ya. Bye.